Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 104th episode of the HSBG Podcast. I'm your host, J.K. Collins, and I'm here with my constant co-host, Shady Bunny. Shady, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Collins. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Woke up, living. I don't know. I'm fine. I'm okay.
Alive is good. Alive is good.
Yeah, woke up alive. Nothing burning in the house, which is, a little bit unusual for this household. So,
No burnings at all, for sure.
Honestly, the fire alarm, there's one fire alarm that goes, or smoke alarm, not fire, smoke alarm that goes off sometimes. Right. I don't know exactly where it is. It goes off, and I'm just like, oh my God.
There have been some alleged fires or alleged smoke.
I just think the batteries are dying, and it's warning, and I'm not looking for it, but sometimes I hear it and it's oh my God. Anyways, we're getting off topic.
That's why we're here. That's why the people tune in.
That's right. But yeah, we've got a new patch. It seems a lot of interesting changes, I would say. Big changes, some good, some bad, as it always is. And we're definitely going to try to talk about it, get through a lot of these unique things. But generally, we do talk about the week and the weeks, how you've been learning, understanding, spamming Murlocs, as I know you tend to do. I'm definitely more of a mech beaster, I guess, in terms of my games when I play, but I can see the Murlocs being the way to go if you like to always have a chance to
win. They've been very, very versatile to me because you could start with Scourfin, and that can turn into, let me buff magnetics, right? And then because you can farm a magnetic with the guy, right? Especially since the rework, we'll talk about that. And then Scourfin buffs that, and then you put it on a deflector or something. That works. You can buff a horse and pull it with base kill, buff it with banana. That works. You can just buff Bream and be nice and vanilla Murlocs. You can do almost anything with that, and you can play Baron with that very easily because then you'll have base skill and Scarfin, etc. So it just feels like they have a lot of opportunities to branch out. So it's harder to miss when you have a Murloc start.
Okay.
So I do like that. But yeah, I think if you can do anything with Rylak and gems, that's disgusting about a lot of games where you get bristlebacks at the end where your gems are 40 health each, and then you have Coiler in the front, and it's just death rattle, and your gems
I had a game like that. It's pretty fun.
Oh, those are great for the person that plays it, and so BS for the people that
agree. I don't know how you balance that, in terms of if your opponent has that and they're getting 30 health per tick, how do you balance that in a meaningful way? I don't really know.
So it might have something to do with battle cries not being made to be endlessly spammed. So yeah, I've been saying that's pretty much since Rylak came out.
Right.
I don't think it should be a card. Why are we turning battle cries into death rattles that are hyper stackable, right? Because they synergize with Brand, they synergize with Baron, they synergize with reborning the Rylak. Reborning the Rylak. You can throw a Macaw on top of it, like you say. You can put an additional Rylak on the board. So you have to keep in mind that every time you add one of those pieces, it's not +1, it's times2. Right? You go Rylak on your guy, that's 1 battle cry. Then you have Brand, that's 2. Then you have Baron,
that's hits 2 things. Yes, the base is also 2. So it's not 1 into 2. It's 2 into 4.
True. Yeah, I'm assuming you just have 1 Jazzer. Yeah, if you got 2 Jazzers, you start with 2, and then because we're exponentially scaling, obviously that makes a lot of difference when you start on 1 and 2, because then that's from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 6.
And you can golden them, right? That's also very common.
Absolutely. Yeah. So essentially the +16 health on your gems every time you have combat, right? That has not been super uncommon for me, which is crazy to say that +16 health on my gems has not been super uncommon. Either way, we have a minor Rylak nerf for you guys today. We'll talk about that, but still not satisfied that concept is in the game, because every time I have a game like that where I have these big ass gems, I say like, why is it even possible for me to get 50 health on my gems? Like Quillbore, okay, I guess I get it where especially the broader audience, right? At least that's the vibe I'm getting when I'm reading chat and when I'm reading Reddit and this and that. That people are like, oh, Quillbore is so bad, and that is because I think that most players they want to be able to just play a type and then like no think, no adjustment. Me play type. Type needs to win.
Wow, the vibe you're getting is Quillbores are bad. Wow, that's surprising.
Well, not necessarily right now, right? But I'm talking the sentiment leading up to this patch.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, oh, Quillbore is so bad, they can't win, like blah blah blah. And that's because like Quillbore for me were never really bad, but that's because you got to move your gems to a cleave, my man, right? You got to do something with Quillbore.
Yeah.
You gotta, yeah, sure. Quillbore more than other types, they have a great mid game, and then they move out of that. You move your gems to high priority targets, and then you play Leroy Queen. Yeah, I get it. That's not necessarily Quillbore, but you had a Quillbore mid game, and you still used that to build a lot of gems, and you move those gems to a high priority target. So I'm a little bit afraid that they're in that case where they're pushing to make Quillbore viable as a type as a whole, and this is sort of a side effect of that the very high level players, they're just abusing it to the maximum, be like, I can do what now with gems?
100 attack per gem? Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
That's fine. I could use that.
That sounds pretty good, huh? Yes. Anyways, we'll dive into the patch. I don't want to, or we can finish up. So basically,
we're going into the patch.
Right. We are. But yeah, that's been sort of my initial feeling right on those topics, I guess.
But speaking of the patch, as you so nicely put it, yeah, they did release a patch. I believe the notes came out yesterday, but the patch is today. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's one of those. This was the first day I played with the patch, but it's like yesterday evening for me. The patch. Okay. Yeah, yesterday evening.
It hasn't been out for a long time, essentially.
24 hours or so. Yeah, right. Like not a long time though.
Yeah, so definitely. Maybe long enough to like have like a wrinkling of like, oh, if these things are changing, this is impactful, but not long enough to like have an established meta of like, oh yeah, this is the new busted. It's not that many changes, so I think some of the old stuff is still going to be pretty relevant, but it is some meaningful changes with some heroes and some abilities that we will be talking about.
For sure. Some things more than others are a bit easier on first glance, right? Just to evaluate. So the very first change we have is not that easy to evaluate on first glance.
Because first glance, everything, right? Like, oh, Arana changed. That's so easy to tell. So, I mean, the first change is pretty, I guess, massive or different, I guess, compared to what you're used to. So, Arana, Starseeker. I will say this hero has been, I guess, weird in a non-buddy meta. So like it's weird because like in buddy meta this was like one of the best heroes, like actually, because the buddy was like so impactful. You get to roll so much for free. But
absolutely
after non-buddies or in a non-buddy state, like it's just been one of the worst heroes, like just consistently, where you used to be able to roll for free. Now you're getting 7 minions. It used to cost more than 5 refreshes. So it's just been a weird state where buddies made it good, but when you played normally, it just really didn't have anything going for it.
Well, you don't want to roll early. So a hero that doesn't do anything until you've rolled 5 times is almost by default horrible. Right, you would need to get a huge benefit from rolling 5 times, because essentially the game is asking you to burn 5 gold early, and then with a 5 gold deficit, you're supposed to make up for it by having 3 extra minions in the shop. Who gives a shit, right? Like that does nothing for me. But in quest meta, fine, because it had a very large chunk of armor, so easy quest, and then you can maybe have a cookbook and then stay low and use her ability like that. You get more scouts in your shops, etc. As you mentioned, buddy, amazing. Her hero power completely irrelevant, but her buddy allows you to go infinite super easily with back when Hogger.
That's a yikes for hero power irrelevant for buddy.
Completely no, actually harmful, because it slows you down when you play Hogger and shit, right? Like it refreshes slowly because you buy a card. the tavern always needs 7 minions, so it'll just slow you down. So if you could turn the hero power off, you would do it after you get the buddy, which is so sad. Well, let's say golden buddy, right? Like let's say you were playing like fireworks Arana.
Right.
Let's your golden buddy and you're going. Turn the hero power off. Just take it away. It's slowing me down.
I love how you say fireworks Arana. That was like in the game for like what? For like a minute, wasn't it?
You were talking buddy, right? That was buddy.
Oh, right.
Buddy meta was fireworks Arana. Right. So because you would just roll for free with the buddy the whole time, so you could just buy
duo. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's talk about the change, right? So it used to be after 5 minions, Bob always has 7 minions. Now it's after 16 friendly minions attack. The first minion you buy every turn is free. I want to mention that this 16 minions attack has to have been through some iterations or something. Like I wonder if it was like initially after you refresh 5 times, the first minion you buy is free. Like that was your initial change, and then they're like, "Wait, this is too good." Then they're like, "Oh, after you refresh 8 times, then you're like, well, people just still do that, and then just start like gaining their money immediately, right?" Like, I would just like, oh yeah, roll, like roll and buy, right? So we're like maybe buy turn 1 and then roll or something like that, right? So because then you could trigger it.
This should not be triggerable in 2 turns or 3.
Yeah, right. Because then you could just level by, like it's like not even a problem. So
So the I think you can most easily picture this when you think about quests, because this is a quest, right? You need the complete a quest criteria, which is attacking X amount of times. And the quest reward is kind of kidnap sack. Not quite, because you can't bounce minions, but early game, that's what a kidnap sack is used for. You just use it to buy a minion for free. So this is essentially the deal. 16 attacks for kidnap sack. Then you have to ask yourself, is that good or not? Right.
What's your thoughts on that in terms of?
So I think in quest meta, I wouldn't love it.
Okay.
But having a quest outside of quest meta is pretty good. So that's the thing, right? That's why I love the Nathrius as well. So I think part of this as well is it's going to be one of those things where you need to be very comfortable playing like quest meta. Because I think if you are playing a quest hero, which Arana now is, right? She has a quest. Queen Ajara has a quest. Obviously, the Nathrius has a quest. You have a prerequisite for your hero power to unlock. If you understand that and you play towards it, then it's going to be obviously way better than if you are playing completely standard and you expect this to resolve on the side. So if you are going to, let's say, go 3-on-3 with this, suicide. You can't do it. Right. So you can't do it. However, what I did in the game we just played, which was honestly, it was okay, right?
It was okay.
Like we were playing around, like way better than old Arana. But there were some crazy high rollers. That's what I say every time I don't win. So
every time you play that name, you're like, oh my god, these people.
These NA guys, they just cheat, to be honest. I think. Anyways, so I played it like quest. So what I did was turn 1, I bought a 1/4, the refreshing anomaly, instead of buy the economy, the pirate and hold. That would be the normal line. You buy the pirate and hold, but then you never get anything. So I bought a 1/4 in the hopes like maybe my opponent is a 1/4, maybe my opponent is a micro me, right? And then you have that immediate slapstick exchange. I only got 1 hit out of it. But then the next tavern, I saw Mana Saber. I was like, oh, this is great, because I played a Mana Saber. They hit into my 0 damage taunts, and then I hit them back with my things that are still alive. So I was like, oh, that's good, right? And then I bought some. I actually got like the hyenas in the same tavern, so it wasn't a super hard sell to stay on 1. Because then I'm staying healthy, because now the Mana Saber is providing with the taunts, which is prolonging the battle, thus making it easier for me to attack with my minions. And I'm not losing health because I have hyenas that synergize really well. But you would not really do that outside of this scenario. You wouldn't stay on 1 to buy Mana Saber and some hyenas. So that's what I mean with.
You don't know me.
Well, to be fair, that particular setup might be worth it because it's very strong early, especially if you get a second Mana Saber. But then Scallywag is another unit that is very good at this quest, because the 1/1, assuming they have a minion left that you can attack, the 1/1 will attack no matter what. So that's very good. So yeah, if you can make some changes, I got this active I was one off on 7 gold.
Oh, okay.
So, and that was just because their biggest minion just suicided into my hyena. Like it was about to attack with something. So I was a bit sad. So I think that's a bit of an outlier, right? Because you would have to set it up so specifically. But I think if you are playing for it, then it should be online by 9 gold, I say, if you're
Oh,
playing
not
for
8
it.
gold?
Well, you have to see, right? Is your tavern going to be that Mana
So you
Saber? Are
kind
you
of high
going
road
to...
is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think Mana Saber really, really helps because anytime they attack and kill one of your units, that's an attack gone.
Okay, so
So
what
with,
I was thinking is that this might be very minion type dependent, where if you can stay on one and you have really good hits, then
yeah,
so like pirates, right, is something that with Scallywag, maybe beast is something there, maybe demons because you have Icky Imp as well. That also could be like a really good use. So if it's like beast, demon, pirates, like those three, like oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna stay on one. And I'll get my thing procking super early, and then like then you could maybe use that free gold and like maybe a pirate engine or something like that, right? So you have some late game plans as top of that. So uh, that's my thoughts, but like you're really gonna have to see what people come up with for sure.
this is indeed one of those heroes that you're gonna have to let the community solve it and then see what's the
No.
verdict.
Try it out yourself and then tell us. Solve it for
No,
us.
I mean, it's really hard to call right now, right? You're
Oh,
gonna have to like, but anyways, it did feel really good to be able to go to 5, roll, and then buy a card
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's so hard in this
You
meta, right?
mean
Like
level
going
to 6, right? And roll and buy a
well,
card.
6 is actually easier than 5, right?
To be
Like the
fair, yeah.
push, yeah, the push from 4 to 5 is expensive, man. To like level, roll, buy a card, man, that's like 2 turns almost, right? Like with how expensive tier 5 is right now, that's rough. But hey, if your minions are free, then well, your first minion that you buy per turn is free, then you can kind of do it. So yeah, anyways, yeah, good to try. I'd say try. So I think a good indication is that her armor went from like 20 to 10.
To
So
10,
that's them
yeah.
saying like, this is probably good. That's
Yeah.
that's my vibe I get. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a fun hero to play, which I could not say about Rana before ever, really. So,
No.
well, maybe Buddy Meta, but even then, I was like, I just roll for like this one card. So, yeah, I definitely think it's an interesting change, and also they have some tweaks to make it better, like more balanced, right? So they can definitely adjust the numbers. I
Sure.
I definitely feel like they're like, oh, Quest is good. Let's just give him a Quest hero. No one's playing Arana. Give him a Quest hero. Okay, we can now tweak the numbers, cause like maybe like you can't do after you're fresh 4 times or whatever. Bob always has 8 minions. Like you can't do that. So I get it. It's just a huge change for Arana. Definitely a completely new hero. So we're gonna have to reevaluate it from this new state.
Yep.
Speaking of another new hero, I guess this is less drastic of a change, right? But it is a pretty important change now. Curator now starts with a 1/1 amalgam. So it used to have a 2/2 amalgam. Now it's a 1/1 amalgam. So it's just a strict nerf. No upside. Oh, wait, there's more. It has Venomous now. It still has all minion types, but now it has Venom. So it kills the first thing it touches now. Just guaranteed, which is not horrible. It's interesting, right? Like it's not poisonous, right? So I don't feel that like oh my god, you start with a 1/1 poisonous. Like I would be like, but Venom, I'm like, yeah, I guess, I guess it's fine. So what's your thought?
The armor went to 10,
Oh, what was it
and
before?
probably max because
Okay.
it's really bad. So I look at this and I'm like, sure. And then I look at all the armor I'm losing and I'm like, you can keep him. So
Yeah.
it's not something that makes me suddenly want to pick curator.
Hmm.
Maybe in specific lobbies, right? Like Murloc out, and then you have elemental in, and people built those big, like elementals that double their stats. Maybe, but that's not so specific. And
Max
we've all
also
played
has to be
curator.
out, right? You can't have divine shields.
Well, yeah, but or you
But
could
then,
module, but
oh
then you don't
yeah, but
benefit
I
from
mean,
the
do you
module,
care
right?
about modulating that much here?
Exactly. All right. So it's like if you get a Venom amalgam to start with, and you are not excited to module that, that's a good indication to be like, ew, right? Like, It's like, what? I don't care about giving my guy divine. Well, you care if you make it large, but then if it's large, why does that venom, right? So then it's like, yeah, it's just one of those things where I appreciate that they're trying to make some changes, but it's one of the things where at least my feeling when I look at this as a player, I'm just like, I do not want to try this out now. This does not excite me at all.
I look at him like, oh, go down from a 2/2 to a 1/1.
Oh, wait. There is some argument in chat here.
Okay.
And that is interesting. So Rattler would work. So it would reborn with Venom.
So it is that is the new Divine Shield, basically.
Yes. And theoretically, Soul Splitter would work as well, right? Because it's an undead.
Sure.
So anything that can reborn. That is true. Okay, so type dependent, you can use it like almost a little bit like a Lich King type thing where Lich King can do that with a Leroy, and that's really annoying and kills a lot of things. So obviously Reborn Leroy is still better than Reborn Venom, but if they don't have shields or so, then this is still quite effective.
So you'd say maybe in an undead beast lobby where you can reborn no mechs. Like
very specific.
I really don't want mechs in because like it's just gonna go to Divine Shield.
You're gonna run into the module, or the Deflecto is gonna hit it or something. So.
Even undead lobbies is like when no one's really playing undead. No offense to undead, but like
I don't know. We have a whole patch. Maybe there's some changes, right? But, yeah.
But yeah, I could see it in undead lobby no mechs. Like I could. Okay. Thank you, chat. That's a point for you guys. There's something.
That's a real argument. Rattler in particular wouldn't have to stay on the board either, right? After it's done its job. So that's
I can see it. Okay. All right. Next up, we've got ETC Band Manager. It's going from okay, so nothing's really changing. The buddy itself is changing. So the buddy used to be a tier 3 buddy. Now it's a tier 5 buddy. So its hero power respects the town you're at. So now it means that Talent Scout cannot be discovered until you are tier 5 yourself. What do you think about this?
I think that's reasonable. The Talent Scout was originally a 5-drop, right. And then 4 balance changes was moved to 3 because ETC was first OP, right? At the very, very first iteration, and then they were like, all right, boom, we're gonna destroy him, right? Like big nerf. Pretty much all the good stuff on tier 2 was taken out. It was like, all right, we're gonna now give him a lot of armor. Still kind of weird. And then people kind of learned how to play with it, and it was okay. But then now that they again did a massive buff because we're not in buddy meta, and the tier 2 pool is still pretty bad. They made the hero power cost 3, and then all of a sudden you have this amazingly flexible hero power that fits into pretty much any curve because curves are designed to fit around 3 gold because that's the cost of buying a minion. And suddenly people were doing like, oh, let me just discover Eudora buddy. Oh, I discovered my ETC buddy. I have a golden Eudora buddy. Oh, I get +10/+10 per turn. Or I have a golden cat on like turn 4. Or I have this or I have that. So there were definitely some things where if you hit a buddy and then immediately after hit your buddy, it's like, well, it's a bit too early to have a golden buddy here. That was pretty ridiculous. Right. So yeah, I think that's reasonable to take that high roll out of the pool. Because I definitely felt like I was looking for the ETC buddy a lot of the time where, if I hit it here, it's disgusting.
Okay. So just a reasonable nerf. Not a small nerf, but like a nerf that maybe is justified or so.
Yeah, they're essentially taking a high roll off the table, yeah.
I'm down for that. And it's still good, and you can still like hit double of the same buddy. So I that's essentially a golden buddy if you hit double of the same buddy. So definitely still strong. I think I'm not really sad about this. All right. Next up, we have some armor updates. So Arana, Starseeker, and the Curator now have 10 armor. So they're just like, these guys are good, is what they're saying.
They are now playable. 10 armor.
But not super. I mean, I think Arana is definitely an interesting curator. The Reborn is funky, but I don't think it's like enough to like pull me to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be playing curator nonstop. I think it requires like a very specific minion type lobby which you're not always going to have. Minion updates, you have Flourishing Frostling. So this is a 0 power 5 health. Now it's a 0 power 6 health for 2 mana. 2 Tavern Tier 2. So if you get like 1 proc, 2 procs, it can be a 2/6. Right? If you start like Elemental or something like that. That's not.
Sally would make it a 3/6 because it'll proc on itself as well.
Oh, right, a 3/6.
So
Okay.
it's essentially a 1/6 base. Like this is never worse than a 1/6. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to play it, right? I mean, what if you just hold it in your hand, right?
Yeah, well, consuming in the tavern would be the thing, right? Where it would be a 0/6. But yeah, sure. Almost with technicalities.
But I mean, it's better. I don't know if
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know if it makes you really want to like play it or focus on it in the early game. Definitely, this at least from what I've seen, a lot of people use this later on as just like I guess like to sell to buff other cards. Really,
to eat. I like to eat this, right? With like the Urzel. That's a good target for Urzel. This card reminds me a lot of Yoho, where Yoho was this card you didn't buy, and then they were just like more stats, and all of a sudden you were like, I'll buy a Yoho here, sure.
Yeah.
When it was this 3/6 Yoho, and you were just like dunking on people, you're like, yeah. So I agree, right? Elemental start. You see this in your shop. I was like, all right, let's dunk some people. Let's get a 3/6. Yeah. So it's one of those things that I like that they do that they're not afraid of. You don't buy it? Fine. We'll make it better. You're going to buy it. It's like, I always come back to Big Fernal. Big Fernal was such a good example. Like, it was so shit as a 4/4. Like, Big Fernal was a 4/4 at some point, guys. Like, try to picture that. Big Fernal was a 4/4.
It's not in the game anymore. They can't.
I know.
They can't picture it. You're like, what is a Big Fernal,
like, what is
Shady?
Big Fernal,
this
Grandpa?
Old man is talking crazy.
He's losing it again. He's talking to cards that are no longer here. But Big Fernal was a 4/4, and they turned it into a 6/6. And all of a sudden, I was buying Big Fernals, right? I was like, yeah, cool. I like that. So yeah, this is fun. I don't think we're gonna see it get any bigger, but hey, surprise me, right? Hey. Maybe one base attack. Maybe it'll be a 2/6 by default. Who knows, right?
That sounds pretty strong, I will say. So yeah. Hummingbird as well is a card people weren't buying, in my opinion. It goes from 0/3 to, get this, Shady, 0/5. Now it has way more health so that it can dunk on those 0/4s that are in the game. Yeah, I don't know.
Get wrecked, 0/4.
I don't know. Like, it seems a weird buff to me. Like, it still doesn't do anything.
Hummingbird is one of those cards that is a meme until it's not. So I definitely have some boards with Hummingbird on it, from Hummingbird on it. It's just that it's Mana Saver. You need Mana Saver. Like,
yeah, I agree.
If you have a Mana Saver, this is all of a sudden a card. Like, for real, like a card. Now your Mana Saver deals 6 damage, and your little tokens 2 damage each. That's totally worth having a Hummingbird on board, and you could have other random beasts, or you could have a second Mana Saver. So yeah, this card is a bit of a meme until there's a Mana Saver, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh god, I'm losing to Hummingbird. What's going on?
I will say that, like, I am joking, but like 5 health means that it doesn't get sniped, right? By things with 4.
That was so frustrating. To hit the Hummingbird first hit. You're like, no.
So it's better, especially turn 2, like tier 2, Tavern 2 cards. Like, a lot of them don't have 5 attack, so if it gets hit first hit, at least you still get to do stuff. So it is better. Like, I'm memeing, but like it does matter that it has 5 health instead of 3. So
yeah, no, for sure. It's I guess it's a card that was underperforming and was underbought. So yeah, they're throwing more stats at it, see if that changed anything. But I agree. This doesn't suddenly make me buy Hummingbird in a situation where I wasn't buying it before. Right? I'm still buying it to buff my beast. So if I don't have beasts, I'm not buying this, obviously, because it's a 0/5. So yeah, that's a good point where it's just better in situations I was already buying it.
All right, Eternal Night. This is funny because when it came out, right, I had a big problem about it. I was like, oh, it's crazy, like it scales forever. You can get it early, and then the meta like has moved away from it. Really, people don't really go in depth. Eternal Night is funky. I mean, you could do it, but like there's way better things that scale way harder than this. So like it just doesn't matter that you can still do it. So now they're buffing it, which is like, initially when I was when it came out, I was like, this is too crazy, and now it's just like, oh, this thing is weak because everything else is like crazy now, much crazier. But they are adding an extra attack on the Turtle Knight, so now it's a Tavern Tier 2 4-1 instead of a 3-1. So same ability, but more stats.
Yep. I think this was its original stat line, and then it got nerfed
Something
when
like
it was
that.
a bit too annoying.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where, I mean, you can see the theme where they're like, okay, let's make undead better. Let's just buff undead cards because people aren't playing undead.
but that was when the Eternal Summoner summoned 2 knights, right? Like it was a different meta.
Yeah, we definitely had the undead meta. There were several things, Soul Splitter was a 4-drop. I think Anubarak was a 5, but did +2 attack instead of +1 attack. So that was really the meta where you would shoot for a 5. You hit a noob. It was like, all right, GG, well played. I'm just going to play Anubarak. My tokens are going to be so high attack, you're not going to be able to keep up. And people weren't making 40 health gems back then. They weren't summoning 4 just from their base kills. So that mattered more. But yeah, I totally hear where you're coming from, where it's there, you're gonna have to do a little bit more to make undead viable if you've made these insane options for other types. Like currently undead, the only insane option they have also relies on Rylak, where you put the attack battle cry next to it, and that's only because, as we said, it's exponential, where you have a brand on the board that's ×2, you reborn your Rylak, that's another ×2, you have a Baron, that's another ×2.
How many compositions does Rylak open up? Like
it's so many, dude. I like a couple days ago I played the 5-drop demon that battle cry discovers a demon, right?
And you take damage.
Remember that? Yeah, so I had 2 of those with Rylak, and then I just had the immune guy in the back, so I wouldn't die, so I take no damage.
Okay, I was wondering.
And then I killed myself. Right? No, it's like, it'd be so hilarious if somebody has like boombox in the back.
That's what I was thinking. Like they just tech you and like, oh, boombox in the back. Like,
obviously, it was giga large because I took so much damage, right? Okay. So it had a lot of health.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
That'd be hilarious if someone actually managed to kill that. Like, I don't know, somehow, right? But I just used that to feed Urzel and Weaver. And that was enough to win. I just used that to feed those things. So you can do it with undead, you can do it with demons.
I kind of want to see that. Like you set that up,
dying to that,
and you just kill the like you just take 20 and die.
Yeah, because it keeps going off with the brand and the Baron, and it's like bam, 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 bam. Right? Where's your value now? Yeah, okay.
I'll see you in hell. And that's fair. But
yeah, so TLDR, and then they're going to need more than generic buffs. Right. Like they're going to need to be able to do something stupid as well as the other types.
Speaking of generic buffs, we've got Scarlet Skull. It's going from a 1 attack 2 health to a 2 attack 1 health, which I think is better. But it's not game changing, right? In terms of like, oh, this now you can play it. I mean, it's still more the same.
So Skull is a bit of a weird one because there are just certain things that you buy in the early game, even though you have no intention of actually going that type, right? And Skull is one of those things where you play Skull Corpse Refiner. That's good. That's a good opener. You love seeing that as your first drop because that feeds your Corpse Refiner. It makes it more durable because the buff is still +1/+2, which I think is better than +2/+1.
Yeah.
But if you're reboarding, you want it to be a 2/1 because then you deal 2 damage instead of 1 damage. So yeah, it's one of those cards that for myself, I think Skull is already nasty in the early game in the right board. So it's something to me that doesn't make too much sense, but it makes sense if we look at it. Hey, we need undead to perform better. Let's just throw some buffs at undead and see what happens.
Yeah, but buying this doesn't make you go undead, which is the question.
That's for us, Collins, which is weird, right? But I think if you start looking at like 5K and below, it might be the thing. They buy this, like, let's go undead.
We're going undead, baby. We got Super Skull.
Undead, baby. We got a pair of skulls. We're undead. Let's do it. And that's a little joking, but also a little not.
I wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah, because we know, right, how good those heroes like Jiraxis perform in lower MMR because it's just like, hey, demons, baby, right? So just not having to think about it. So yeah, I do think that the lower MMR you go, the faster people commit to their type. Like they have a pair of low flyers, it's like dragons it is. All right, let's go.
That makes me think of an undead hero where your first non-reborn undead gets reborn.
Well, you have Putricide, right? That's the archetypal undead hero.
Well, sure. I mean, but
That's a
that
bit too good.
but
It's too
Putricide is
complicated.
its own archetype. I feel like
Yeah.
it's not an undead.
Well, you'll play undead, but it's like Putricide undead. Yeah, you'll do something.
Yeah. Where I think you can start like Eternal Night and you would reborn, and then you could like scale with that, and it sets up a lot of your other like late game synergy stuff like that.
Wait, are you just making it a Lich King that's not flexible or
yes.
what?
Thank you.
Okay.
Quiet you. I guess give it stats. Fine.
Shut up, poking holes in my buff theory.
It also gets stats. Fine. Whatever. Give it plus 2 plus 2
Sure.
or something.
Okay, let's move on.
Not flexible Lich King. You're right. That's just worse. All right. Silver Winder. Going down from 3 attack 1 health to 2 attack 1 health. This was definitely one of the best 2-drops I think to get if you have any synergy. So this makes sense to me. Just a really powerful card. So I understand it. Yeah.
I understand it as well. I think that this is a card that really pushes you into demons early for a lot of people. So I did not play a lot of demons. I very rarely had this card on my board, really. At the start, I was a bit more on board of let's start with the Weaver and then the Soul Rinder. But the more you do that, the more you realize that, okay, I got the Weaver, I got the Rewinder, I got the Malkazar.
No, I don't have the
Tichondrius. Oh shit, right? Like, yeah, like the problem is you don't have Tichondrius. That whole thing, you're just rolling, but you're not doing anything. So it's a nice early game start, don't get me wrong, and you can use that, but then you need to be able to like transition into banana or base skill if you don't triple into Tichondrius, because in the end, doing a whole bunch of damage to you and then healing it back doesn't do anything if there's no Tichondrius on the board. So it's one of those things where you can have that start, but then you got to be a little bit more flexible. So that's why I rarely ended up actually playing this, because it's quite unlikely to get the Tichondrius. So, and I was in that spot a few times, right? Like that's when I stopped doing it. I was like, I need Tichondrius. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't do this with like, I don't do elementals and be like, oh, I hope I triple into Nomi, right? Like, that's not a good play.
What do you mean? That's
like, I'm like, that's such a new play, Shady. Stop doing that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna chill on the demons a bit. So for myself, I'm like, okay, whatever. I wasn't really buying this card anyway. But for other people, right? Again, especially I think the lower MMR we go, the more it's good to just be like, okay, I have a nice strong demon card.
Yeah, this was a very reliable like top 4 comp where if you have Wrathweaver into Silver Winder, like you don't really have to do too much work to get into top 4. You're like you're very healthy early, right? Because the Wrathweavers will keep you healthy, and then like obviously you start losing if you don't have Tichondrius, you stop scaling hard, and then you just kind of fall off. So I can see in lower MMRs like this is just like a really powerful buy, but like high MMR, it's like maybe not reliable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I did see it in my lobbies, right? It was definitely, maybe it's also a personal preference thing. But yeah, again, right? Totally fine start, strong start even. But yeah, it does need the Tichondrius if you want to continue that direction.
I just think like even with the Tichondrius, it's like you fall off still. Like it's not fully carrying you. It's no mech. It's no even elemental stuff. It's no beast.
Yeah, it's true. The people that win, it's because of duo. Because I've seen like early golden Tichondrius, Tichondrius, and I'm just like, oh, okay, buddy. Like you just know that there was a duo.
That is true because your minions are so concentrated, you can play duo like without really worrying too much about it.
Yeah. Well, you have the power early, right? Like it's top 4 comp because you're strong early. But then if you can use that strength to carry a duo for several turns, then all of a sudden it's no longer top 4 comp because you have way more of your key cards than other people have because of duo. Yeah. So yeah, that's okay. All right. What do we have next?
Radio Stars going from a 2 attack 1 health to a 1 attack 1 health. It's getting the dragon treatment.
Yeah, this is hilarious. I love this. Where this was printed as a 3/1, and we were both reacting to it like that's fucking broken. And turns out the developers agree. Right? It's like we'll turn it into a 2/1, we'll turn it into a 1/1, right? So this is now a card that when I look at it on 3-on-3, it's probably still a buy.
Yeah.
still a buy.
And maybe like
But
turn 4, it's still maybe fine. That one's
yeah,
even that one is like you're getting there. Like I don't know anymore.
I'd say the second shop on tier 3, I'd definitely be having my doubts. I'd
Yeah,
have to look a
you
little
start
bit.
thinking about it already. Yeah.
Yeah, what's my health? Which hero am I playing with my opponent, right? But yeah, it's one of if you look at it from a pure economy standpoint, it's still 1 coin per turn, and that coin gives you tempo. So this is still pretty much always a slam if you win 3-on-3 and it's in your first shop, because you'll just get a card from your first opponent, and then that card gives you some tempo, and from there on, it's already paid for itself. So it's just one of those cards that's apparently really difficult to balance, because that effect is so strong if you get it very, very early. Just putting extra, because you have to picture it this way.
It,
That 1/1, yeah, go ahead.
there's like this curve of like broken to useless, and it like goes through that very quickly where it's like broken and then you
Yeah.
wait 2 turns useless.
Well, picture it this way. If the radio star helps you fill your board, it is way better than if you would have a full board, right? So let's say the radio star is your 6th minion. And then next turn you would be able to level buy the 7th minion anyway. It doesn't matter that you have an 8th minion that you stole.
Right.
Now then it's just a coin. Right. Now it's just flexibility in a coin, and then you put a 1/1 on your board and you're bleeding because of it. But if the radio star bumps you from 2 minions to then 3, and then you buy, and then you go to 5, and then you steal, and blah, 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 right? Like that's good. So that's really the thing you have to ask yourself with radio star. Is this helping filling my board or not? And if it's not, it's probably a skip.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah. I like that. But overall, cool. I mean, you still buy it in the same kind of circumstances where it fills your board. And
correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, as a 3/1, it was broken. Yeah.
It was a good card. Yeah. So, like, now you'll take more damage, right? So, 1 damage almost never kills anything. 2 damage still gets the job done sometimes.
Yep. Next up, we have a mech buff. Question mark.
Question mark. Yeah. Exact same reaction.
A Cordotron is going from a 2/3, to a 3/3. So it's a 3. It's a Tavern 3 card. 3/3 magnetic. At the start of your turn, gain 1 extra gold. I mean, like gaining 1 extra gold. That's not that good. Like we need to buff that. I don't understand. Honestly, don't get this one.
I think this just wasn't bought very often, right? Unless it was put on a deflector or something, and they just wanted to be, because I do see it where early on it's a bit weird, because a lot of the time your curve is good. You don't need an extra gold, right? You're like, okay, and maybe now I can roll for 4-drop, right? It's not useless, but it's just right? It wasn't that great, and maybe they just wanted to be buyable early instead of just, I'll just get it from the scrap scraper later.
It's weird. It's weird because, like, let's say it wasn't magnetic. Like, I could still buy this. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird that people are just like ignoring this thing. I guess maybe the 3/3 stat line is what.
It is pretty punishing if you're going 3-on-3 and you're buying bad minions, though, right?
I guess the argument is like, as a 2/3, if you just buy it, it dies to everything essentially.
Because value traded.
Yeah. Where 3/3. Maybe it can trade with some things now, like
Well, you can compare it to the 3/3 coin Naga, right? The one that put the coin in your hand.
Yeah.
But very, very important difference is you can't stack the coins. You have to spend it next turn. So I still don't love buying this as a 3/3. I think I would still only buy it if I have to, or if I can magnetic it on something, right? Because then you put this on a shield, all of a sudden you get way more bang for your buck. Yeah. So again, I feel like we've had a lot of these where I think I still buy this in the same circumstance, but it's not better, right? We've seen that with the hummingbird, we've seen that with the whatever it was, the skull, etc. But yeah, okay.
I do think this isn't what's making mech strong. So like adjusting this is fine, right?
Yeah, we can skip over this one. This is not fun.
Next up we have Prickly Piper. So it used to be a Tavern Tier 4 minion, 6 attack, 3 health. Now it's a Tavern Tier 3 minion with 5 attack, 2 health. So that's a big buff to go from temperature 4 to temperature 3. We've seen that a lot.
Absolutely.
It really changes how you play things. And it's a death rattle for the rest of the game. Your blood minions gain an extra 1 attack. And I mean, now both of the blood gem scalings are on 3, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's something you can now see in like having 3 shops. You just see both of them, and you're just like, yeah, I know what I'm doing this game. Like, like we're blood
See,
gems,
that's one of
boys.
those cases where it could actually be like, okay, I guess I'm Cobra, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
This was one of the changes that I looked at and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get it either.
are people not playing Quillboar or what's good? Because I am slaying with my Quillboar games, right? So, but again, that's because we use Rylac, right? We're getting those high gem counters. But yeah, my Quillboar games do not need a lot of help right now.
Yeah.
So I looked at this and was like, damn, dude, like that's nasty. Like I got this on Vol'jin earlier today, and it was disgusting, as you may have imagined. So yeah, you get like a bonker, and then the bonker gets a bunch of attack, and then you can switch from the bonker. You can do the gem swap trick thingy. I did it like 5 times that game. So yeah, this one to me, for people that understand how Quillbore work right now, I think a lot of people look at this and be like, "Wow, Quillbore don't need this." Okay.
No, they don't. I feel like maybe they're doing this because they move some things from 3 to 4, right? So they were trying to find
Yeah.
something to move back. But like this card is really strong. Like it's death rattle, it triggers every turn. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to. You just have it on the board and you're scaling. Um, you
This
know,
is not a card you would move just for filler, like, oh, we need
yeah.
another Quillbore on 3. Like there are huge implications to this being on 3. Like getting 3, like getting this 3 turns earlier suddenly makes your banner board like way better, for instance, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I think it's understandable with one of the changes we've already teased a little bit, right? The Rylac is going from 3 to 4. So I guess maybe they're thinking, well, the
I didn't
Quillbore
tease it
kind
at
of
all.
takes a hit. I teased it, but whatever.
But yeah,
Yeah,
Ralak is
so
moving from 3 to 4. I guess
I'm
we can
guessing that's a logic, right? That's a logic here. Like they're like, okay,
we
well,
can talk
they
about Ralak right now.
sure. We just understand. Well, let's just do hands because hands is.
Fine.
And
Yeah.
then we've wrapped up all the tier threes.
Yeah, okay. So
This is
handless
yeah.
Forsaken used to be a Tyrant tier 4. Summons a 2/2 hand reborn. Now it's a Tyrant tier 3. 2 attack, 1 health. So it's losing 2 health. But it now Death Rattle summons a 2/1 hand reborn. I don't really think this changes like how strong it is. A lot of times you're kind of banking on the hand to have a lot of attack. So it's now just a Tyrant 3 minion that gives you like kind of the same kind of stat line.
Yeah, this is a nasty tempo hit when you think about it. Like you get this 3-on-3 as Lich King, you win your next round.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
You destroy someone who bought regular cards, right? Because it's like reborn that makes a reborn that makes it bam, right? It's really good. Green Thumb loves this change. Green Thumb's like, yes, you proc me all by yourself. That's so good. So there's a couple of boards now where you can get this. So I looked at this change as well, and I was like, I get it, under the generic undead buff strategy, but I think it's just going to create some nasty boards on 3 where you're like, oh, I don't want to, like Graybo gets this, you're like, oh, what the fuck? There's definitely some stupid boards early that, yeah, nothing game breaking, right? Nothing where like, oh, they win the game, but they're like, oh man, they slapped the shit out of the next person because you get this way too early because this is a proper strong 4-drop. And it's basically not nerfed when it comes to how strong it is in the combat, right? Like a little bit here, like the hand token might not value trade a 1/1 token from a menace, right? We're talking little things like that. So in terms of actual combat efficiency, this was not really affected. And then, yeah, it's now a 3-drop instead of a 4-drop. So you just get it way earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like the event synergy is a lot better, I would say. Just making sure you can proc it super early. Definitely these cards that are moving from 4 to 3 are game impactful, which is not always the case, I would say, in terms of like them dropping stuff. They usually like to drop cards that don't really create archetypes or create like game breaking scenarios. But these ones, the Pricky Piper and the Handless Forsaken, they definitely do that. So kind of weird.
Yeah, I'd say Piper a bit more defining than Hand. I really think Hand is just gonna slap people. It's like no pun intended. Like that's just you're just gonna be like, ugh, that's strong.
Yeah. You can build around Piper, but Forsaken can make you win the fight, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And Rylak Meadowhead, right, here we are finally. Rylak's a card we've talked about a lot. We think it's why is it in the game, honestly, is the sentiment. But they listen. They're like, you know what? Tavern tier 3 too good. Let's make it Tavern tier 4. Job's done. It's balanced now.
Yeah, I mean, it'll affect the win rates.
Yeah,
that's for sure, right? Because no more, I've rolled Felemental Rylak immediately. I've rolled Jazzer Rylak immediately. That was like, that is how Lobby Legends was literally won, right? We had Silas staying on 3, farming tickets just to get more Rylaks, more Jazzers, just hard forcing the gem comp, and that's how the Lobby Legends champion won his final game. So no longer possible, which is good, right? You do make it harder to get the comp, but you know, tier 4 is really that point where, yeah, it's, you know, we talked about how it's nice to get the Piper earlier, but it's not like you can't play Quillbore if Piper was on 4. And it's the same thing with Rylak, where I really think 4 to 5, so I'm not saying it should be on 5, but 4 to 5 is where we can see that I've now pushed you out of that early mid-game strategy where you are not getting that on a consistent basis. So the Drakisat is a great example, right? The whole meta was, Drakons are in. I'm going to roll for Drakisat and Rylak. I'm going to make triples. I'm going to get a lot of money. That's going to allow me to go for 6s. I'm going to go for Caligos. That's what everyone was doing. Now, Dragons got hit, but not like crazy where you're like, oh, well, Dragon, like my Caligos being smaller isn't suddenly going to make me stop playing Dragons. But what really happened was the Drakisat was moved to 5, and all of a sudden you couldn't really do that anymore, and you saw way fewer Caligos wins, which makes a lot of sense. So the same thing with Rylak, 3 to 4. I don't think that is suddenly going to give us this like, I cannot play Rylak with gems anymore. I can't play Rylak with Felemental anymore. We're just going to see a little less of it, but I don't think it's going to be a huge hit for that for those comps.
Yeah, like maybe you start scaling later, like a turn or 2 turns later, but if they have the setup, like they're still going to have the setup, right? And they're still going to win.
So maybe only plus 35 on your gems instead of 40, right? Which is borderline.
The travesty. Oh no. What can I do? Yeah, I hear you.
You have to keep in mind those early turns, you don't have the Brand and the Baron anyway, right? So we're literally talking 1 health on the gem, 1 health on the gem, right? So, but yeah, it's tier 4 is really the tier where you could spam roll. Like anyone can get the 4, right? Like you are almost never dead before you get the 4. Usually,
you know, don't doubt me, Shady.
I would say there has been some gross mismanagement of resources if you're dead.
Don't doubt me, Shady. I can do it. I can pull it off.
All right. So yeah, that's essentially my point. The Rylak changes. It's a bit more of a slap on the wrist for me, where it's like, okay, we'll lower your win percent a little bit because now people won't roll you as early. But you'll still see, like, one of the more frustrating things is Battlemaster next to a Rylak.
Because you're just like,
it's like you don't have poison, you don't win. Like that, it's like a I win button for the next 3 turns, right? Because people just don't beat your Battlemaster if it's next to, like, if you were taking damage, of course, right? So let's say you've taken 20 non-armor damage, so you're on 10. Your Battlemasters are gaining 40 health every time the Rylak triggers. That's disgusting that early in the game, right? Like you have a Reborn on it, that's 80 health on each Battlemaster if you have 2 next to them. And it's just like, you don't beat that.
So often, I'm like, oh my god, he has 2 Battlemasters next to a Rylak. Then I'm like, oh wait, they're Tavern tier 4, so I'm not dead. I'm like,
yeah. True,
I'm only taking 12 instead of 15. All right, we're
Well, I am on the other side very often where I point out the ridiculousness, where I tell my chat, okay, chat, we are now going to roll for Rylak Battlemaster because it's literally the only thing that keeps me alive because it's fucking broken. And then I hit it and I'm like, yeah, I got top 2. I did absolutely nothing this game. Obviously, my top 2
Well,
opponent is
you strategically lost all your health, Shitty.
strategic management of health resources is true.
That's right. So you got
Those health points they needed to be invested. Trust me, chat. That was a good buy. We needed to buy all those cards. Right, so, but yeah, that happens. Like I say, like okay, I fucked up the early game. So I found Rylak Battlemaster, so it's actually quite beneficial that I have so low HP right now. But yeah, that's probably one of the more infuriating combos I hit because you just don't beat it because you don't have, and if you have a poison, it's usually not all the way in the back. And even if it's in the back, they can hit it, right? It's not like, it's not like a guarantee. So I've gotten better at it now at sniffing it out. Sort of be like, okay, how much damage is he dealing? What was on the board? He's reading 2 demon. Okay, I think he's doing that, right? Like they're doing the Rylak Battlemaster thing. And then I do slam my Leroy and stuff all the way in the back. And then sometimes you get him. But it's far from a guarantee, right? It's far from a guarantee that you win because, yeah, whatever. I guess it's just a pet peeve of mine. I've lost it up too many times.
Fair enough. But yeah, they're moving it from 3 to 4. Another thing they are moving from 3 to 4 is Malchazar. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Malchazar.
Malchazar? Okay. Thank you. This one's also going from a Talon Tier 3, 5 attack 2 health to Talon Tier 4, 6 attack 3 health. This one I'm a little bit confused about why this one needed to move up. Maybe demons are just really strong and lower MMR lobbies, but definitely
that's the vibe.
Yeah,
sorry, that's the vibe I was getting. I think it's just like demons were overperforming for them across the board, or at least on average. So
yeah,
and craziness, I think mechs were underperforming if we look at the next few changes, which is crazy because
there's no way you're lying. But I mean, sure. Let's look at the next change. We have Scrapper. So it's used to be a 3 attack 6 health avenge 4 get a random magnetic neck. Now it's a 3 attack 7 health, so getting an extra health. Now at the end of your turn you get a random magnetic mech. So let me be honest. I looked at this. I was like, oh, they're nerfing Scrapper. They get a pity health buff, but they're nerfing it. Now you can't get 2 mechs a turn. Copium. And then I think about it, how often was I doing that? I guess not that often. Like 1 mech was like usually what I was hitting. You had to already be like winning the game for me to get more procs or have a golden one where you have
but if you're winning the game, a lot of the time you were not getting any, right? Because you're winning too hard. That happened a lot.
That's true. If I was winning too hard, I was getting nothing. See, I was able to barely win. You see, that's where I can milk 2 consistently. Yeah, just that barely winning. I didn't play that well to be destroying.
The zone where the fight where you could have died, but you didn't. That's perfect. That's just right. It's like I could have died to this guy, but instead I got 5 mechs. That's good. Okay.
Yes, I'm very good at that. Actually, you did the right amount of where I could have died here, but yeah, I won my 20%, so now I get 3 mechs. Yeah, that's a good point. But on average, this is better, which is a little bit weird because I do think mechs are by far the strongest comp to play. So definitely interesting. What's your overall thoughts?
So I looked at this and yeah, my initial instinct was, wow, this is so much better to buy early now. Because this used to be, this was a card that you had to skip a lot of the time. If you had the discipline, right? You look at the board, you're just like, this ain't procking, man. It's just not gonna happen. Have some generic mid-range minions and nothing taunt. You're like, it's just not procking. Way.
There's no downside to buying this now.
Yeah. Now you just buy it early and then it's great. So I'm quite confident in saying that's not a nerf for me. The availability early goes up like crazy, or the viability, I guess. You can buy it pretty much anytime you go to 4 early, which is a huge buff.
This is getting nerfed.
Yeah. You can, and the big one is you can module this now and not feel bad about it.
Oh yeah.
It was very difficult to module this. You almost only moduled it very late in the game, or you sold it. So the fact that you can module it now makes it much easier to turn it into a reset for your deflectobots. So you put a module on this, you put a menace on this, because that's another thing, right? You used to not really menace this too much because you want to menace on the other things, so that it's finished. So it is so much nicer now to just module and menace this thing and feed your deflectobots. But the biggest one of all, which is I think what most people miss,
is Drakari.
Yeah. Drakari. Yeah. Like I've already seen multiple clips of people milking the entire magnetic pool. Like their guys are not giving anything anymore. They've literally milked every magnetic in the game. Yeah. I've seen Pocky do it. I've seen RDU do it. Right. So it's like it's already like, and I've set the patches out for 24 hours, right, or less. So it's, I think, very decisively a buff. And the people that think it's a nerf haven't considered Drakari yet, because you already want Drakari in that comp really badly, right? Because you want to play utility drone. So this will just mean that there will not be a super rare occurrence to milk all the magnetics out of your pool.
That's such a funny statement, by the way. I've seen multiple clips of people milking the entire magnetic pool and they can't get anything else. Like, that's just a thing you say now.
Well, I mean, imagine like you can have 2 of these golden now, right? Before it was like, that's too much. Now you're like, fuck it, let's do another one.
Yeah,
more magnetics. Let's go.
Yeah, I guarantee this is not going to last, and probably play mechs if you can, and if you start with, I mean, even if you don't start with this, like you could just have this. Like the weird thing is you could just have this on your board, and then you just put the magnetic you get on it. Like, so this thing could be like +4/+4 a turn, like doing nothing, just sitting there, and then it gets Divine Shield, and then you just put it some, like, it's just like you don't need to run any mech synergy or anything like that. You could just have this on your board, and it can carry you by itself. So
yeah, I wouldn't oversell it in that it's direction.
It's so broken. It's the best card in the game by a mile. Like, always buy this.
When you're doing this, still, like, this is something I still see some people underestimate a little bit. Deflecto is your guy, right? Like, please get Deflectobot, because if you are getting magnetics, that means you're getting menaces. If you're getting menaces, Deflecto is insanely good, because this is something I also explained to my chat when we were talking about effectiveness in combat, right? Like, there is the numbers you see on your board, and then there's what those numbers do in the fight. So Deflectobot might always look like an okay minion, but then you're like, okay, it hits something and then it resets. And then it hits something again and then it resets again. And then you have 2 Deflectobots with menaces, and then one of them is going to reset the other one. It's just crazy how much value you can get out of that one minion. So yeah, Deflectobot, I would say on average, much better than Foe Reaper. Foe Reaper is much easier to counter with a taunt plus Leroy and stuff like that. Whereas Deflectobot gets those multiple resets, a lot harder to just completely neutralize. But yeah, I think Scraper is a great card to buy early now, for sure.
Yeah, definitely a weird change. I think missed the mark. I think they were trying to nerf it, but then
I don't. No, this is the thing, right? You're gonna see the. So we'll skip ahead again because it makes sense. Utility drone gets a flat stat buff. It goes from a 4/5 to a 6/7. So I think that is very clearly them saying, hey, mechs are not performing well enough in the numbers. Let's boost them. Let's make them better. So I think they know that it's a buff. I don't think that's going to come as a surprise to them. They may have maybe overshot it a bit, where they're like, oh, this is too much of a buff. But I think that for some reason, people were...
You really think mechs are sucking in low MMR that they're buffing this?
I think on average, people are not doing it. I mean, and I can kind of...
Guys, what are you guys doing? They're not watching.
Yeah, because I think it's a little bit more difficult, where you do need that understanding a little bit of, the resets, where to put everything, how to maximize the value. You need to understand that you do need all those pieces, right? You need to drone, you need to scraper,
I can see in their stats a lot of people buy scraper and die. I could see that.
Yeah, that would make a ton of sense, because you need, as we talked earlier, you need to discipline to skip this. The old version, the new version you can buy early, of course. But the old version, the one that relied on Avenge, you had to skip that on certain
Mm-hmm.
boards. And I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, mechs are good, right?" And then
I
they
lost a
bought it
scrap
and
scraper
died.
last game. Okay, I buy it, and then they die, and then you're like,
Exactly. Like,
oh.
oh my god. What do you mean they didn't kill my 5 untaunted guys first? Oh my god, so unlucky. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
could.
like,
Yeah,
oh
that
wow.
that would
Yeah.
make a lot of sense. Where I'm like, okay, uh, but yeah, definitely a weird G change. Not likely to stick around. So abuse it while you can.
We'll see
Yeah,
indeed. But yeah, it's probably quite good to play right now.
yeah. Xylobone's going from a 5 attack, 1 health to 6 attack, so it's gaining an attack, which isn't bad. That's
Nope,
meaningful. That's very meaningful in this with this
that
hero.
card for sure.
Yeah,
Yep, yep, yep.
definitely. This card's weird because it can feel like really like oppressive in like the early, like if you get this early and you're playing some reborn or something, and then it's like randomly like a 612 or 613 like out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh well, I didn't do anything and I got 12 health permanently, right? But then like it's hard to buff undead, like unless you are running um that 1 attack scaling, or like unless you're playing Rylak. Let's be honest, it's hard to buff undead unless you're playing Rylak, and a lot of times, even if this thing has like 10 attack, 100 health, it's like, well, it just dies to a 30/30.
You sell it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
no, that I think that's a very good point. Where the way how I would describe Zillabones is that in a different meta, let's say we are playing with buddies or quests, right? And you buy this, and this is Giga Tempo, way better of a card because you do that and it serves a good purpose. But right now, you need to push for certain directions quite heavily because not everything is the same, right? Which is if I have a good undead setup, that is way worse for me than if I have a good banana setup or I have a good base setup, right?
I bought 2 banana slammers, and now my thing is getting 80 health, 80 attack, and
Yeah,
80 health. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Exactly,
I
right?
bought
Like
a
we had that.
Xylobone, and I'm getting 12 health per turn.
Oh,
Woo! Like,
that's
yeah,
insane,
no
right? Yeah, yeah.
attack.
No, we had that co-op Arana game. We had just where our board is just like 2 bananas, reborn raptor, horse, and our opponent is just like this monster, and we just like barely lose it. It was oh my god, it was so tough. So yeah, that's I think that's the point here where Zillabones on paper, while it looks like damn this should be good and it's strong and it's good in the mid game and stuff, it doesn't build into a place where you want to go. Maybe that's different now because we're gonna see maybe it's a couple of small undead buffs, one's not so small buff coming up. Maybe now it's a good strategy, it's a good direction, and then this minion all of a sudden gets a lot better because you can keep it around and you don't have to sell it. So that's really what's going to determine the viability. Is undead going to be a viable type? Then yes, that is quite significant. If not, it's still the same problem, right? It's kind of good in the mid game, and then you have to sell
so,
it
so,
because
so
it's not bananas.
my issue is that like even if undeads get better, which I'm gonna argue is not like super like likely, it's still not the piece you want, right? Like because you still only get seven spots, right? And it it doesn't really fit into what undeads really want to do. It doesn't scale in a way that undeads are like, oh, this is oppressive, right? Like the what the 2 ways people are really playing undead is like it just gets a ton of attacks and you have a ton of summons, right? And then if you have that, this doesn't really fit that because it just doesn't have reborn or anything like that. And then the other way is like, okay, maybe sister scaling with reborn, and then you have a lot of health and stuff. But then if you're running that sister comp, you already have a lot of health, so you don't really need the Xylobone. Like it doesn't really fit there. Like you could say
Yeah,
like maybe it's like a supplemental piece, but you want like another sister or you want more reborn or something like that. So to
you
really milk that.
do. I think it's so I have that sometimes with Hungering A Bomb.
Mm.
That card, a lot of like maybe not so much now, right? Because we're not playing that meta, but when undeads were good, I would have that with an Hungering A Bomb where I have this A Bomb on my board, and I don't necessarily want it, but it's still quite a strong unit. So I think the Zillabones fits that same role where yeah, it's not another sister, but it's got 150 health and it's getting some good damage. So it's one of those cards where it can it can get you to
To
where
like
you want to
top two
go.
or something.
Yeah, or maybe even when if it's a golden one, because if you are summoning a crap ton of min, that is a really big power. Like
It
that's
is a lot of stuff, yeah.
like you're getting a
But
lot of
you
HP.
need it with
So
sister, or I guess you need a way to scale the attack essentially in a
yeah, a
reasonable way.
Nubarak sister,
Yeah,
basically, yeah. And from what we can see, it's probably sister, right? So
right.
we'll tease the sister buff. It's now +1/+3 instead of +1/2. So that is what sister
Wow,
originally
there's a
did.
lot of changes. I'm like scrolling down, and I was like, oh, there's still a lot to talk
A
about.
lot of them not too relevant, so
Yeah.
we can skip over those very quickly. It's a lot of like, oh, more HP, more health, more HP, more health, right? So it's or more HP, more damage, stuff like that. So yeah, that is why I said like if that sister buff is going to be enough to make it viable, then I can see the card being okay.
Mm.
Anyway, we can move on to the next one, which is like much more impactful. Average.
Ooh, Upbeat Duo is now a 5 drop. It's now a temperature 5, 6 attack, 6 health. But the main thing is it goes from 4 to 5. And we did talk about how moving it from 4 to 5 is a really massive change. It costs a lot of gold to go to Tavern Tier 5. So, this does matter, I would say. This does affect
Yeah.
a lot of things. It
I
okay, it's kind of weird because Duo was already in like this semi weird spot in that you had this small window to get it in a lot of compositions where if you get it early, then you can like hold it and then like you get a triple and then boom, you get two copies of it. And then like later on, if you try to get it, you have to argue like, ooh, am I living 2 turns? Like, can I live with this on the board at least for 2 turns and still do it? So making it a 5 just makes it harder to have those arguments where you're like, ooh, I can play this and live and then pop off or something like that. So that's my thoughts, but what are you thinking?
The sort of my standard strategy in the meta we had before the changes here was pretty much don't go to 5, don't do it because there was just so much on 4, right? So that's why Murlocs not being hit at all for me is great because I abuse Murlocs like crazy. But it means that that tier 4 strategy is still completely untouched for Murlocs, where you can roll and hit pretty much all the pieces you need to get a really strong board. You can still do that with Banana Slamma for the most part. You can still get Peggy and the Cleave. So Duo going from 4 to 5 is a really big deal because that was pretty much a no-brainer of I don't go to 5, right? 5 is too expensive and there's so much good shit on 4. So I just roll on 4. And it was always Duo and Elise that you are looking for because those cards are pretty much universally insane early when you are rolling on 4. And then you look for key pieces of those other comps, right? Do you get the Peggy and the Cleave? Do you maybe get the Deep Blue and the Zesty in the same shop? It's a little bit slower, but it's pretty good, right? Especially if you can roll a second Zesty. Do you roll the Bananas and the Raptor? Do you roll the Base Skill and the Bream? So there was a lot of stuff in combination with that Duo. Now with Duo going to 5, we have one less card that is guaranteed to be good when you're rolling up 4. So I'm not sure if that's going to push me over the edge of maybe now I'll do some early 5s. Although I've seen it, I've done it earlier today with a Rana, but that was an exception, right? Because you can go to 5, roll, and then buy. So yeah, this is the one that I'm quite confident in saying that it's going to be the most impactful like change in how you play because Duo was such a comfortably good card on 4. And I think people that really understood that in this meta benefited greatly from not leveling to 5 and killing themselves and just very, very reliably buying good cards on 4.
So you said a lot of words. What was
There's a lot of words, yes. So it's very impactful that Duo moves from 4 to 5.
Okay.
Very impactful. And yes, I can see this card being too slow a lot of the time now.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, basically, I mean, I'm the guy that levels to 5 and kills himself. As Shady would say, like I just sometimes don't kill myself and kill everyone else. Sometimes. But I see what you're saying, and definitely does make sense. And usually when when I see Duo, like you can pick it up. Like what will happen is I'll see Duo, pick it up, and then set up for the triple into a 6, and then copy that is usually what I have. But now with this, I can't really do that play. where I would have to go to 6 or something, or triple it to a 5, and the 5 would be jewel. But then, like it becomes very slow essentially, and I just worry, like, is it now just too slow? I will say, like, duo is a card, like, maybe I don't like being very oppressive, so I don't mind it getting nerfed like this, but I also don't like bad cards. Like, you like cards like you get a triple and you have 3 cards. You're like, I can't run any of this. Like, duo might end up becoming like that kind of piece where it's just like, oh, it's a little late here. It's a 5. I don't have any direction. That kind of thing.
So a thought that I had for Duo when I looked at these changes was Faceless Tavern Goer. This was an old card, and it's kind of like a Joker card. So
Right.
it worked like Elemental of Surprise, but for anything. So it was your last card. So if you have a pair, Faceless Tavern Goer will make it a triple. So up until this point, I think the iterations that Duo has gone through, it was better than Faceless Tavern Goer because it was on tier 4 and
Right.
flexible. I think we're now at the first stage where this is worse than Faceless Tavern Goer, but Faceless Tavern Goer was insanely good.
It was really strong. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of hard to.
So that's kind of, I think that's a cool thing for me to now internally evaluate that card. Like, okay, this is the first time where I would rate it below a Faceless Tavern Goer. And obviously later in the game, Faces is better because you wouldn't have to keep it on your board.
Right.
But we're talking early, like I'm buying it early. How do I feel about it? Yeah, because this is the duo, unless you can really power to 5 or you triple into it, that early duo is just not happening anymore. So yeah, but I'm all for it because you had these.
It was too crazy. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, whenever you saw a stupid board, you just knew duo was involved.
Or I like one of the two.
Sure. I'm talking when I saw those like 4 Tichondrius. I'm like, oh, I guess you rolled into all of those. Right.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Utility Drone. We talked about it a little bit, but it got a big nerf buff, right? 2 attack, 2 health for free. No real downside there. Same stat line, same ability. Apparently, mechs were weak.
Yep, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
Mechs were weak, guys.
We were already really happy with this card when it was good, and this is not going to change that. So yeah,
even better.
It's just weird. A lot of people were probably not doing well with mech.
All right, Bongo Bopper. Now this one gains 1 attack. Amazing. It also gains an extra blood gem permanently. So
that's a big deal.
Big deal. At the end of your turn, it used to be gain 1 blood gem and you play 2 more on this. Now you get 2 blood gems and you play 2 more on this, and that is huge. And I will say, I didn't really see people playing this card, to be honest. So I can see it, but this is a lot. That's a huge buff, especially if with the other quote board buff moving to 3. Like, this is reasonably strong change. So
if you have a golden bopper now and a Drakari, you get 8 gems in your hand.
Quiet you. Yeah. That's the right? Drakari synergy is like crazy. Like surprisingly crazy, the Drakari synergy. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, you turned this from a 1 to a 2, now it's a 2 to a 4 instead of a 1 to a 2.
Yep, exactly. I've played with Golden Drakari and Boppers, and that was insane because they just, well, first of all, you don't get to play because the animation is super slow. So a little shout out, please do something about repeating animations. Just it's like, oh my god, my gems were just like gem on the bopper, gem on the bopper. Gem on the bopper, gem on the other bopper, gem on the other. But I was like, oh my god, I have no shop. So it was just, at one point it just crashed because like, it's too much.
Dude, so much Quillboard games is just crashes for me. Like once you get into a battle, just crash. I'm just like, I can't see the battle. I don't know what they have. Like it's just crash every time. So yeah, hopefully they fix that. There's definitely some overflow or something that just causes your game to crash when it comes to jumps.
It's probably tough, right? So it's probably not an easy fix.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was already pretty happy with Bopper a lot of the time in the situations where it's good, right? So we're talking, I have played my
Rylak.
Rylak stuff.
I've played my Rylak.
Now the thing is, I do see the conflict there with it's hard to fit if you have the juicy comp because I need my Brand. I need my Baron. I need my Rylak. I want my Jazzers. Like, where the hell do I place Bopper? So it's more I got a Bopper early, right? And then I have the Quillboard that increases attack. And then I use the Bopper to farm. And then I use a gem transfer to a cleave or to a deflector or something. So this feels a bit like we're overshooting it, but I'm interested to see how it goes.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're overshooting this. Like I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah. Next up, Bristleback Knight also getting a buff. So you could tell like mechs were sucking, undeads were sucking, covers were sucking apparently.
Demon good, demon nerf. That's really what it felt like.
But yeah, Bristleback Knight. I will say I rarely see this card, but I think this card is like really good. It's just weird to. It's now a 6/9, so it's nice now. But
it's a nice stat.
It's definitely a nice stat line. But it's going from a 5/8 to a 6/9, same ability. It still has Frenzy, Gain, Divine Shield, which is really good. So it's weird because the Quillboard comps people were running just didn't run this. But it's not a bad card. But people were like, there wasn't room for this.
It's like a late game card where you when you switch into Bristleback, that's where this is good, right? So your backline is Bristleback, and then the Knight. So that by the time the Knight attacks, it has like 500 HP, and it always resets.
It's crazy.
That's the stupid. But this was not a great. Well, tempo wise, again, it was good.
Yeah, it's good, right? But like, it doesn't make a comp. Is the problem? Yes. So it's hard to like commit to this. Like you'd be like, oh yeah, Bristleback Knight, it's good, but like I'm not getting stronger. I'm not keep building anything with this, so it's hard to like buy or commit to it. Obviously the stat is nice, but once again, it still has the same problem. Like if you have a skill in composition, you need to do other things before you do this. Like this comes in late.
Yeah, this can really help you not lose fights when you need it. Because this happens a lot of the time when you are boosting your gems. The people that are dying with that comp is they don't have a target. So I almost always have like a horse on my board where I jam all my gems on the horse. And then the horse keeps me alive while the Rylak milks more. If you do not have a good target for your gems, you're going to lose rounds most of the time. So something that is a bit resistant to poison, like a horse or a Bristleback Knight, is quite nice. So it can fill that void.
I remember just like I have like a 200 health thing, and they have a Leroy or something, and I'm just like no, or some stupid poison, and I'm just like no, don't hit that like one card, don't hit, and it goes into that one card, and I'm just like like I have a 200 health minion, I kill everything, but then no. The stupid venom gets me, and I'm just like, what did I do wrong? But
didn't have horse insurance.
That's what I didn't. You're right. I didn't have horse insurance for sure, but yeah, I mean it's a buff. I don't know if it changes anything, but it is meaningful in that if you do pick it, it is a little bit stronger. It is nice, to be fair.
It dunks people in the head when people triple into it, right? Like you triple into it and that's minus 12 incoming or some shit.
They're a big fan of zap buffs, like
that effect, all right, but anyways, like you'll see it with the next few changes. It's literally just card was bad, give more stats, right?
Trumpeteer.
Yeah, card was bad, give more stats. Lightfang, card was bad, give more stats.
I'm down for this one though. I'm down for it.
It's good. Yeah, I think it's good. There was already Reddit threads being like, finally we fixed the card, right? Where I understand where they're coming from for sure, because they want to be able to play around Lightfang. I just don't think that the card does that anymore. I think it's you triple into it early, you have it on the board for a while, you use it to level, and then you ditch it, right? That's how you play Lightfang. And I'm okay with that. I don't need it to be something you can play around. And if you hit Rukari, right, you can kind of already play around it.
What if it buffs itself? Give a friendly minion and itself +2/+2.
Well, ask yourself, do you think that that's busted? Remember what Charlie did when it buffed itself?
I know. I'm not sure.
I think it's busted. Okay. So when I saw this suggestion on Reddit, it was like, it's so simple, just make it buff itself. Oh my god. I was like, you guys You guys weren't around when they introduced cards like that, huh? It's like it's okay. So in the current environment, with how strong everything is, sure, mess around with it, release it where it buffs itself, and see what happens, right?
I could
Um,
definitely see it like losing that ability quickly. Just
yeah, it's like it seems really annoying where somebody triples into a light fang, and it might not seem like a big deal, but that means that they always have an extra, type on the board. Even though if light fang isn't the type, it buffs itself, right? So it's an extra type on the board. You no longer have that 2/2. It starts as a 4/4, it buffs itself, it's a 6/6 immediately, then it's an 8/8 the turn after. That was really the problem when Char got buffed itself. It was like a 7/7 that insta became an 8/8.
8/8, yeah.
Right. And that was so oppressive. So on the right board, let's say you have
And Drakari's in the
four.
game now as well, so that's another thing to
Yes.
think
And then
about.
all of a sudden you get these like
Yeah.
end game boards where people will have like, like 300 HP light fangs who's like, oh my God, they buffed this card too much. Right. So you can easily see how that goes out
Yeah,
of
I could
control.
easily see it. Yeah.
So yeah, for all the backseat developers, right? They're like, it's so simple, just make it buff itself. It's like yeah, if it was that simple, they would have done that already. But yeah, we could try it. See how that goes.
Wow, Shady, you are right. Wow, they really think mechs suck. I didn't see this one. I actually didn't see
Yeah,
this one.
dude.
What? They're buffing
Throw more
Beatboxer
cards at
too?
everything.
What? Why?
Yeah. Oh, I did the thing this morning. I with Vol'jin,
Oh my
where you
god.
you take your biggest mech, you put it on a magnetic, and then I have two boxers on my board, right? So then you magnetize 400,
No,
400,
no.
and the boxers get 400, 400. And then you take the boxer, move it to a magnetic, and then and then all the
Quiet,
it's the,
dude. Don't. Why are you just spilling your
I,
secrets like that? Why?
I had
Why?
like a
Why are
1,600
you
boxer.
just telling everyone your secrets like that? Come on.
Because Vol'jin is hard to play, and people can't do it. It's yeah.
Well, it's
I
hard to play.
Vol'jin.
I just got 1,000 stats for free. Like, oh, I mean, that's
Oh
hard.
man.
You do have to
I,
get to turn 6. I mean, tier
I
6.
don't know how many wins I have in a row on Vol'jin, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's close to 10. It's just like I picked that hero. And like I'm talking first place. It's not just like top four, right? It's just like it's insane how much fun I have when I play that hero, and I think it just shows in the results. I think that hero is so much fun. It's so hard, and it's not a hero I can advise to people because it's like, oh, just solve that very specific Vol'jin problem here. Yeah, of course you make a big Baron with the Selfless and the horse. It's so normal. But yeah, I think he's a really good hero.
Fair enough.
Anyways,
What's my
little
pocket pick?
Vol'jin.
My pocket pick is Vol'jin. Like, I can hear it.
Exactly. Vol'jin over everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, sister we already covered, right?
Mhm.
It's now it's a 410, so one
Do you
HP
think it's going to be
expel.
playable with this change?
I'm
Like,
gonna try it for sure. I'm gonna try it for sure. If I have the, I'm not gonna force it, obviously, but if I have the setup for it, I'm like, all right, let's do sister, right? Let's see, because we have seen it be nasty at 1-3, right, back
yeah,
in that meta.
yeah.
So definitely worth an experiment here, because you have to keep in mind they did buff all the other stuff as well, right? The Zilla Bones is bigger, and it's easier now to have, let's say, a pair of handless on your board, right? Which would go pretty well with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, worth a try. Worth a try.
All right. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, yeah, I hear you. Pirates getting nerfed, which is fair,
fair.
I
I
guess.
think, yeah.
Honestly, I get it. After you spend 9 gold, you get another round pirate. It feels like a lot though. Like 9 gold compared to 8, it feels like
That's
a
one of
lot.
those math things where I feel like somebody should do math. Like if I have two Tethys, do I still, like basically two Tethys plus brand, am I still basically infinite? Yes, no. Right. If that's the case, I don't care. So that's usually how I win my games. I get double Tethys with a brand, and I'm just like, wee. The turns don't end.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you the numbers, but it's
I'll
interesting.
I'll pick it and I'll be like, I ran out of gold. What the fuck? Right? Yeah.
Fair enough. And then Eternal Summoner's also getting a buff +2 attack.
Yep.
I mean, relevant. Not crazy, but relevant for sure.
Yep. They're really throwing the like, all right, buff undead card. Undead win rate up, please. Thank you.
And then finally, Young Murkai also getting a 2 attack, 2 health buff. It seems to be across the board in a lot of cards. I do think not a lot of people are playing Murkai. Like, Murlocs are doing other things. So
Yeah. what Murkai is doing is it's making your Jazzer bigger with Bran, or it's doing something. It's always up to no good, right? If you see a Murkai on the enemy board, it's up to no good. It's like procking a Golden Murazov. They're doing something nasty. It's when they feel like they should play Murkai, it's like I'm making my Battle Master huge, or I'm procking this card that shouldn't be able to get procced or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really feels like it's in that spot now where it's when you have the brand and you're gonna do some nasty shit.
The Gordon Murazon dude, that is too toxic. By the way, I'm just like anytime I see that, I'm just like, why is this available? Like with a Rylag or whatever, like I just don't get it. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's the worst Rylag, isn't it?
this being a worse Rylike.
Yeah.
So there's a couple differences.
Okay.
This synergizes with Drakari because it's end of turn. So
Right.
that's a big difference. And you can do it on things that wouldn't be permanent otherwise. So a Battle Master end of turn keeps the health. Rylak wouldn't make it keep it. So yeah, depending on what you're doing, it is a worse Rylak, but in other cases, it's definitely much better.
So in some scenarios, it's slightly better, but in a lot of cases, you'd rather just have the Rylak. You know, like it procs 2 cards anyways.
Yeah, the fact that it can be reborn, right, is pretty significant. So a lot of the things you're using Rylak for, it's not going to go better with Murkai. Right? Murkai, it's specific to, oh, I want the permanent health on the BM, or I want to have the end of turn. Like I did something really funky. I told you about it when I did it. Sneed Buddy is a battle cry, right? So Murkai can force proc that, and that was disgusting. So you can proc, and then if the Sneed Buddy is the only battle cry on your board,
I love it. Our example is a hyper specific example.
Well, that's one of the things, right? I think Battle Master getting permanent
is the most common thing that you're
that's the easy one, right? You do that, right? All right. Or you play a board full of Murlocs and you copy up a Gurgle. Oh, everybody does that these days, right?
Who does that? Like no one's playing Murlocs like that anymore.
Look at that loser. He's buffing with the Gurgle instead of a hand Murloc.
I feel bad.
Okay.
2 cards also got removed from the minion pool. Incorporate Corporal.
Yeah.
I don't know what card that is.
It's the 5/5 on that guy on turn 1, tier 1.
Oh.
Right, so that one's out. Yeah, they have Null in case now, and I'm a bit annoyed because I'm Vol'jin main, right?
Yeah. So I was like,
I was free on Vol'jin, right?
People were like eating it, right, with the 1/1
picky eater, right? Like Shutterrock. Whenever Shutterrock rolled the 5/5 and the 1/1, it's like I always eat it.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
So nice.
And then
I get it.
Yeah, I get it. Rock Height, no. Once again, I don't know which card this is.
That's the 1/4 undead guy that gets +1 attack every time something dies.
Oh, it's been returned. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a filler, right? Like the 5/5 goes out, the 1/4 goes in.
That's fine, I guess. Okay, sure.
Okay, nothing too crazy.
Overall, any standouts, I guess, besides the duo, the scrapper.
I think those are the 2 highlights. And then the 2 highlights are Scrapper is now stronger, duos on 5. Rylak on 4 is gonna make some changes, and then I guess we'll have to see if
Pricky Piper.
Viper 3. I'm more interested to see what Sister does in her current form. Is that a comp now or not? If that's a comp, then that's going to be. It's going to be like right now when I see a pair of Anubarax on tier 4 early, I skip it, which is crazy, right? Like you should not be skipping the premier undead early scaling card as a pair early on tier 4. But I was like, I buy this. Yeah, I see it in my shop, and if I buy this, I die, and it doesn't go anywhere. So we'll have to see if that changes now, right? Do I suddenly buy an Anubarak pair with these changes or not? So stay tuned, I guess. Let you know.
That was a long patch. That was longer than I thought it would be, actually.
Well, it was packed with a lot of really impactful things, right? Like very that's cool. It was fun. It was fun though. We had a good time.
Yeah, sounds good. I guess we can wrap it up, huh?
We can. It was a pretty big one.
Where's my ending slide? Can't wait. There you are. Okay. Hey, thank you guys. Well, thank you for watching. You could find this HSBG Podcast, feedback, blah blah blah. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Other places probably. I don't know.
Just Google HSBG Podcast,
Yeah.
Educated Cause, Shady Bunny. There you go. Like
Yeah,
for more
sounds.
information on any of those.
And we'll see you in a couple weeks as we've been doing. And
See you in the next one.
take care, everybody.